Coming up on this episode of Fear Frontier, the podcast.
Oh my gosh, I could drown out here. I could literally drown out here.
This is really happening. Run. Now tonight, we are going to discuss fears.
That's probably the most scared I've ever been in my life.
This is going to be a hell of a story.
Good evening, viewers. I am Matt, and I welcome you once again to Fear Frontier, the podcast. And tonight's episode is brought to you by Grandmother, who still comes to sit at the foot of your bed while you are sleeping, even all these years after. And I am once again joined by my wickedly charming crew in all their haunted glory. Greetings, Fear Frontier.
Welcome friends, I'm Michael.
Hello, I'm Chloe.
And I'm Riley.
In tonight's episode, we're going to discuss the perils and pleasures of everyone's oldest emotion. What is both a burden and a gift, as well as half our brand name. In other words, tonight's secret word is fear. Now you all know what to do whenever anyone says the secret word, right?
Scream!
That's right. Whenever anyone says the secret word, scream real loud. Let's try it. Riley.
Yes, Matthew?
How much money would it take for you to swim with an Australian box jellyfish?
Oh, well, an awful lot, Matt. In fact, of all the marine life in Australia, I would say the box jellyfish is the one that mostly I fear.
Anyway, okay, we're not going to scream every time we say that word because, for one, we're going to say it a lot. We're probably going to lose track of how many times we say it. And two, in here, we could literally wake the dead, and we don't want to do that. So, we are not going to scream every time. But hey, at home, if you want to continue screaming every time we say the word fear, go ahead. In fact, if you do, write about it in the comments. We want to check in on you, actually. But, yeah. Of course, screaming at the sound of the secret word was inspired by Paul Reubens in his portrayal of Pee-wee in Pee-wee's Playhouse. I'm a huge fan, and as we know, it's very sad losing Paul Reubens as he passed away, or as we around here like to say, he went to the frontier. July 30th, 2023. I, for one, really miss you, Paul. I was a huge fan, and you are irreplaceable. But, yeah, so I also do feel that Paul Reubens makes a pretty good segue into one of our early topics of fear we're going to discuss, because as someone that enjoys fear, as somebody who has kind of makes a living off of fear, I wasn't necessarily born that way. I've always liked scary stuff. However, as a kid, there were some things that scared me, including Pee-wee's Big Adventure. That movie scared me a lot as a kid, and of course, those of you who've seen it probably aren't surprised to know that I'm speaking about the Large Marge scene. Now, we can get into details about this, but the first thing I want to know about all you guys, what is a movie that terrifies you as a kid? And I want to know why it scared you and how it affected your little kid life at the time that happened. Now, if you need time to think about it, I could easily go first with this one. I've already let the cat out of the bag. Large Marge. Who here has seen Pee-wee's Big Adventure? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was maybe about 5, maybe 6, when my sister rented the VHS back in ye old Blockbuster days.
Hello! Did you hear? Pee-wee Herman's now on home video.
And I was over at a friend's house, and then I came home after, and it wasn't a school night. I was going to stay up late anyway, and I thought this looked funny. My sister had already watched it, so I'm like, hey, I may care if I watch Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and they're all like, oh, no problem. And so I put it on, and I'm just by myself. They've already watched it. It's late at night. I'm watching it by myself. And then halfway through the movie, and I've been cracking up. I've been loving it. I still, to this day, think it's one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. But halfway through the movie, Pee-wee gets lost all by himself out in the darkness.
Wait! I'm in the middle of nowhere!
And he's trying to hitchhike his way to Texas. If you've never seen the movie, check it out. But he's trying to hitchhike his way to Texas when suddenly 2 bright headlights from a diesel truck come like down this long stretch of road, and he's got his thumb out. They're willing to pick him up. But instantly, this scene feels different than the rest of them. There's something eerie, there's fog. And just the way he gets in, the truck driver, he's like, wow, some night. And then like they start driving, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But then this eerie music kicks in, and when I heard them, like, why isn't this funny anymore? And then when she starts talking, she doesn't introduce herself or nothing, just on this very same stretch of road, on the night just like tonight, worst accident I ever seen. And like he's just like looking at her, and this creepy organ music's playing, and little kid me's like, what's this? And then all of a sudden it just escalates into everybody knows, when they pulled the body from the twisted wreck, it looked like this. And you're and like the claymation face, eyes bug out, tongue bugs out, hair all a fritz in all the 1980s Tim Burton glory.
Yeah, exactly.
It scared the crap out of me. I wasn't prepared. Now what's funny, my dad was in the other room and he heard this. He knew what was coming, and he's like, I wonder if I should like warn him, 5-year-old Matt, about that. So he's trying to make it in there. He doesn't make it in time.
Yeah.
Now, I love scary stuff already, but I think what made this so scary, and this is something that I love about what horror can do in film, sometimes the scariest things are when a filmmaker is very good at hiding that it's even coming at all.
Mm-hmm, you didn't know it was coming.
This movie wasn't supposed to be scary, so all of a sudden it goes from 0 to 11 in like seconds.
Yeah.
And I remember I tried to hang in there like a trooper. Like, when they pulled the burning body from the twisted, burning wreck, it looked like this. And like it felt like it held it for like
Ever.
about 17 minutes. But in reality, it's about 2.5 seconds. But I remember like getting nervous. I leaned back I was sitting on the floor. I remember leaning back on my hands and trying to hang in there like, and then, nope. And I like ran out of the room, hands extended in front of me, and I ran right into my dad. And he's like, crap, I didn't make it in time. and I was freaked out, and I was crying, and I got over it. It's not one of my favorite movies, but it wasn't overnight. It took me a minute or years to come down and like get past this. No, maybe not that long, but I did learn a lot about film that night. My dad basically took the VHS out of the VCR, and he's like, hey, if you take this in the backyard, our dog at the time, Max, he's like, this dog will rip this VHS to shreds. Go ahead and take it out there. And of course I didn't, but he was trying to get me to understand it can't hurt you. It's stuck. It's confined in the VHS. And it worked. I learned how fake film is, and that probably played a part in helping me realize what scary on film, on VHS, on tape was. So it kind of has a positive ending, but man, of all the horror movies I've ever watched in all my life, from Tot to like this week, nothing has really scared me more than Large Marge. So thanks, Paul Rubens. More reason why I love you. Anybody else got a story they want to share about a movie that just petrified them as a kid? Now
I'll go.
Okay.
I'll go.
I love it.
Mine is sort of dumb. It's not a scary movie. Like, it's not even like a scary moment in a movie. I watched the Goofy movie as a kid.
Okay.
And it was fine. Everything was okay. And for context, I was watching like Coraline, like The Corpse's Bride. I always liked the dark, creepy stuff, even as a kid. But I watched the Goofy movie, and then that night I had a nightmare about Goofy. And do I remember the details of this nightmare? No. But ever since, I don't quite look at him the same. And I liked the movie, and so my parents would be like, "Oh, do you want to watch it again?" And I was like, "Nope, absolutely not. I'm okay." And it just it traumatized me. I don't know why. That was the one that got me.
You don't know why?
Other than the nightmare, I have no idea.
What if you didn't have the nightmare? Do you think it would have affected you the
I
same?
don't think so. I think without the nightmare, it would have been fine. But the nightmare made it so that every time I tried to watch that movie after, it would be like a fear response.
Do you remember what happened in the nightmare?
No.
Darn it.
I know. It's not much fun because I don't remember what happened in the nightmare, but...
Hypnotized you and we'll just sit there.
We can figure it out.
It's in there somewhere.
I need to rewatch the movie.
And then
I might
Fear Frontier movie
remember.
night. Everyone's
Movie
like, Fear
night.
Frontier movie night. Wow. What are they going to watch? Goofy movie. And I'm like, really? Don't worry.
There weren't any scenes
There's
that
no
you could...
reason.
We'll
Okay,
double
so
feature
the
it with
one
Pee-wee's Big
scene that I
Adventure.
remember, and I don't even remember if it's in the movie or if it was from my nightmare, but it's raining, and there's a tree, and there's some lightning. That's all I got. I don't even remember if it was in the
Goofy
movie.
was
I don't think it was. I think it was my nightmare.
He was underneath a tree during a storm.
During a storm.
And it did get struck.
And the tree got
I do
struck.
remember that.
And
I
that
don't know
is
what the
one
scenario was.
I don't remember it either, but
yeah.
that is the one scene that when I think of that movie, I remember nothing else.
I remember...
I can see how that could probably get...
setting.
Yeah.
And I was very young when this
Yeah.
happened.
It's funny because I had a friend that saw that movie and it depressed him. I actually don't even know. It's been years since I've seen it, but I don't remember if I saw the whole
You
thing.
feel sorry for Goofy.
Well, no, is there a toy that gets tossed out of a window in the rain and it's all sad?
I think it's his son's
ragdoll or
ragdoll
toy or something.
thingy.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about? Well, I had a friend that saw it and he said it depressed him for life. First, it triggered a depression instead of a fear, but whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't
My
know.
sister
Apparently
hated
that
the
movie
Black
just-
Knight and Scooby-Doo.
Apparently, a
Has some
Goofy
big-
movie is the Citizen Kane of the animated Disney World. But anyway,
Exactly.
It's evil.
What about you two blokes?
You want to go, or I got one? Yeah.
You go first, yeah.
I was like, I'm not afraid of nothing. I need time to think.
Right, nothing. Now I can't remember what year the show came out, but it was Stephen King's Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a comedy. She has an animated film. You go straight for Stephen King.
Of course,
It's okay for kids to be afraid of Stephen King movies, but
Just saying, because movies don't scare me back when I was young.
how old were you in this?
I'm trying to remember what year the book came out. Whenever the original Pet Cemetery
1983.
came out. I'm going to think
81.
around 84, 85.
83.
83.
Nice.
So,
Nailed it.
Really.
all right. So I'm in third or fourth grade when that show came out, and I had already read the book, and the book scared the hell out of me. But the movie, the way they did with the sister that was upstairs named Zelda. And she was disfigured and just weird looking, right? And there is this one part where the neighbor across the street,
Fred Gwynn
his
part?
name is the old guy, and he was in the room and he was looking for Gage, and I just see him walking into the room and he can't find it. He looks down at the floor and all he sees is his hand underneath the bed and he slices the back of his foot and falls down. That right there will mess up some kids, okay?
Yeah, I've heard.
I still, to this day, my bed is the floor, the box spring, and the mattress, okay? There's nothing underneath my bed at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've heard people say before, now that you mention it, when they were a kid, scenes that scared them. That is one I hear that a lot.
Actually, same.
The heel,
Yep.
the heel
Yeah,
scene.
I mean-
It's one of my things. I'm not saying it's why I wear boots all the time.
I'm not saying that's why I wear boots all the time, but it's why I wear boots
You know,
might be-
all the time.
might be a
the
part of it.
poltergeist, the damn clown that pulls the kid under there.
That's what I thought you were gonna
hate
say.
Clowns.
No, when I wrote the question, I thought because I thought you were gonna talk about
Yeah, because those two
poltergeist
things.
and clown.
Anything. Yeah, I guess anything under the bed.
So, Big Brave Riley.
Oh,
What's up?
babe.
No, I mean, there's so much, you really got to go back in time and get yourself back in that headspace. And I do remember one in particular. I was around 5 or 6 years old, and in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a show on Sci-Fi called Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction.
Beyond belief, fact or fiction.
How much money would it take to make you spend a night in a cemetery?
Would you display this as a trophy? Do you have a pet? Do you have a sweet tooth? Do you believe in the power of a curse?
And it was on new episodes on Wednesdays.
Yep.
My parents let me stay up past 8 o'clock to watch it, So that was always, it's so much fun. Even today, it's rewatchable.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Because they have like 4 or 5 little scenes, right? Or little stories. And your job, for those of you that don't know, is to tell whether or not, by the end of it, whether it was based on a true story or if it was completely fabricated and made up.
I remember that.
And
Hosted by
they're
Jonathan Frakes.
good.
Yes, I love that show,
and
actually.
they're good because you like, it could be.
Yeah.
No, maybe.
You make a game out of it.
Yeah, you do.
You could be like, you could sit and watch with somebody and
See who gets what right.
yeah, see
Pure
who
Frontier episode idea.
that would be
Totally.
great.
I love it.
We could watch a few and then see who can get it right. Maybe I might be a little ahead of the game because I don't remember a lot of them.
That's right.
I gotta
Well,
memorize.
it's also such a great era for TV, that and X-Files.
X-Files, exactly.
What a great time to have cable. It's not like that anymore. But anyway, that's another,
back in
that's
the
an
day
all
when
another
that,
subject.
hey, I
Early
had Tales from the
2000s
Crypt.
So that
and-
show scared you, or an episode?
An episode in particular.
Okay.
Spoiler alert: this one was not true.
I was gonna say, like, it must have been fact, but
Well, no, it was that bad. So I'll just set the scene. It was Halloween night, and it was an older couple. I believe they didn't have any kids. They were just handing out candy, and the man, he was messing with the kids. He had like fake fangs in or something, and he was supposed to be scaring all the kids. And like earlier in the day, they got some trick-or-treaters, and then it just completely died out because there was this big storm. And they're like, oh, well, I guess, no more kids tonight. And then all of a sudden there's a knock, or the doorbell rings, and he opens the door. He's got his fangs in, trying to scare the kids. And there's nobody at the door, but further down the porch, there's a kid dressed as a Grim Reaper just standing there. And he's like, hey, you want some candy? You're like, it's Halloween, what are you doing just standing there? And he's like, okay, that's weird. He never moved or anything, so he just closed the door and just went back doing his thing. And then I believe that happens 1 or 2 more times, and he opens the door, and this Grim Reaper kid dressed up as a Grim Reaper is at the bottom of the porch. I don't remember the specifics afterwards, but I do remember that night after the episode ended. My bedroom was situated so that my headboard was here, my feet were here, and the doorway was right here, and it led into the hall to the bathroom. So my parents would leave a light on in the hallway, and I'm laying there trying to sleep, and all I could think about every time I close my eyes is somebody dressed up as the Grim Reaper at the end of that hallway watching me sleep. And I could not get that out of my head. And so I told my parents about that the next day, and they're like, maybe we should take a break on watching that show. But that one sticks with me for sure.
that sounds cool.
See.
So that could be fun, but it's interesting because as a kid, it's interesting, like, what scares you. I'm afraid of a comedy at the time, an animated film. Now tonight, we are going to discuss fears. Big fears, little fears, all shapes and sizes of fears, and maybe even learn a little bit about what each other fear, as well as yourselves, viewers. You might learn a little bit about your own fears. So firstly, what is fear? By definition, fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the anticipation or awareness of danger, likely to cause pain or a threat. However, I think that unpleasant and danger are subjective. So in my opinion, the definition of fear is flawed. So
It's subjective.
So some of us find, fun in danger and dangerous and all that, and unpleasant, that's absolutely subjective.
Yeah, it is.
So I, for one, find fear to be very pleasant. Even when it's a legit fear of mine, there's something about that goes, oh, good, I get to be scared today. Like, I kind of take that route. So there's exceptions, but basically, I want to know what your guys' opinion, like fear, agree or disagree that it's fun, like how I feel.
Depends on the fear, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends
Like-
on the fear. Some could be fun. I mean, I love the idea of bungee cord jumping
Yeah.
and climbing up the side of a mountain, but I'm not going to go skydiving
Right.
because I don't like flying.
So you would bungee jump, but not skydive.
True.
See, a lot of people
Why are you
think
going to jump out of a
skydiving is
perfectly
less
good
scary.
plane?
Yeah, a lot of people though are the other way around. And it's interesting too because like me, now nobody wants to come across a bear when they're in the woods when they're not prepared.
I have.
But yeah, so have I. And it's like, oh wow, like I might live to tell this story. That's how I go there. My brain doesn't think quiver and be afraid. It thinks, ooh.
It's like,
let's
oh, cool,
strategically
there's a bear.
face fear today.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What about you guys?
I am absolutely a very anxious person, but I also am an adrenaline junkie. So a lot of the things that I do to get that adrenaline naturally scare me, but it's like you said, it's the fun of it. I think that fear is not necessarily an unpleasant emotion. I think a lot of the times it's enjoyable. I like to push my limits. It's something that I've always liked, is to see how far I can go with something. And so when I get scared, I just want to see how far I can go before I tap out. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There's two ways that you can think about it. You put yourself in very frightening, fear-inducing scenarios, or you find yourself in a scenario that, oh wow, this is something, like you said, I don't know how I'm going to get out of it, or my favorite is, this is going to be a hell of a story.
That's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, exactly. Being a very large person, I've always been a tall kid growing up and everything. I remember when I was really young, I was tall enough to go on all the roller coasters and everything. First couple times I was like, I'm good, but then I'm like, you know what? All my friends couldn't do it. I'm gonna go on these roller coasters.
Oh no, I remember crying at an amusement park because I was too short.
Because you wanted to.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to go. I mean, I think that's even part of why I do the job that I do. I like the stress. I like the fear, the urgency. I thrive off of those emotions.
But like I said, it really depends on what type of fear it is too.
This is true. Because there's also fear where, wow, this is exciting, a great story, and then there's fear like, I could die from this, like being diagnosed with something.
Or
that
in a
might
situation
not
you
be
know
fun.
you're never getting out of.
Right.
It's pure
Or
pain.
You can't control the outcome.
or a fear like that, something that's out of your control that hits you in an emotional level, or fear that extends beyond you. What's happening to you extends into, it's going to harm family, it's going to harm friends.
Yep.
So that's a whole different.
Oh yeah, there's totally different. I mean,
I feel selfish.
bunch of different types of fears.
Yeah, so I guess maybe when it's directly happening to me, it's different. But fear just fascinates me. That's kind of why I wanted to talk about this today. The episode that's been prepped, these guys know nothing about. But we're no strangers to fear because of what we do. We're ghost paranormal investigators. We run a ghost tour. And I, for one, love fear. I've always been fascinated by it, my own and others, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I find fear interesting, and I wanted to use an example, though it's probably a bad example because I'm rusty on it, so I'm hoping Chloe will help me out. Because Chloe likes to read, and she has read the classic book, Heart of the Sea, which, if you don't know, is a true story that inspired Moby Dick, which is, of course, about the great white whale that they are hunting. But in the true story, which took place 19 or 20, somewhere in there.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Now there's a scene in it, and like I said, it's been a long time since I brushed up. I probably should have, but the whale has struck the ship, and the ship is damaged, and these people they on the boat need to get to safety, and they are running out of options. They can either fight the whale, probably not going to happen, or there is a nearby island, but they fear that there are cannibals on it. So they're like, well, we can't go there. Their other option is to try and catch wind and make it to the next shore, which is hard to do, and they end up trying to go for that, and over half the crew dies. They starve and get lost. So I think fear is interesting because you've got a bad situation, you're scared, you have options. The fear of what may be drove them to do what they thought was the wisest decision, and it killed over half of them.
Exactly.
There's something about that I morbidly love. And fear is this natural thing we're born with. You don't have to learn to be afraid. It's there. And it drives us so hard. When you think about fear, you just think about, ooh, scary. But no, fear, which we might get into later in the episode, can really steer every direction you take in life. More than happiness, more than intuition, like more than a positive gut feeling. Fear drives you. Like the fear of what will happen or what could happen is a higher brick wall than almost anything. And I find it all just so fascinating. Fear is just this living, breathing, in some ways wonderful thing, because fear also works as a slap in the face from reality, like don't do that. It's the hot stove type of thing. So this is me just ranting about why I find fear interesting. If you guys want to chime in on anything I just said, feel free to, before I move on to the next question.
I would love to go back to the book. I will be doing that a lot. If anyone brings up a book, just expect me to have things to say.
Chloe loves her literature, especially classic.
Indeed.
I wish I had time to read.
Especially
because I love
horror,
reading, too.
especially classic and horror. Classic horror makes it the best. But anyway, I think the funniest thing about the fear that you explained, the fear of the cannibals for not going for that island, is the fact that in losing half of their men, the ones who survived also had to resort to cannibalism to survive. And it's sort of like that weird dichotomy that you see a lot in film, like, oh, look at the consequences of your actions, they're going to be very poetic, but it happened in real life.
Right.
And I feel like that's something interesting too, because fear obviously developed in humans to keep us safe.
Yeah.
But we live in such a different world now than when humans first evolved, that now it's like our fear can sometimes lead us directly into danger instead of to safety. It's a wild concept. I think it's fascinating.
It is.
And I also think it's interesting because you can take it to that level of, making decisions so that you don't die, or making decisions so you don't have to resort to cannibalism. And these are like the extremes, right? These are the extremes, but you think about your day-to-day life, I'm working this job, I am content, but could I be doing more? Am I too afraid to take that leap and do something just, because I don't know what the outcome's going to be, just in day-to-day life.
Or the simple of asking a question and the fear of getting rejected.
Getting-
Something as simple as getting rejected.
Exactly. So you just...
I want that promotion, but I'm never going to ask for it.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
It can really hold you back.
Yeah.
So we start at 10, and then we can dial it down to a 1 or 2 as the fears, but yeah.
Now, see, it's funny too, because I mentioned how much I like fear. I'm the type that will do almost anything. Bungee jump, skydive. If I'm afraid of a place,
I'm sure if
Fear
Fear Frontier decided to go skydiving, I'm not going to say no.
Right.
Peer pressure.
Well, no, I'll say, in fact,
We'll make fun if you don't.
Fear Frontier in general.
Kidding.
We started a business in
Yeah.
the middle of a pandemic.
We did.
Worldwide.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's
that's
worked
scary.
out, but what were we thinking? But it worked. But
what if?
talk about talk about the what if, and good grief. And I'm not even trying to brag. I'm almost saying we're idiots, but
it was
got
crazy
lucky.
to start it. Yeah.
But
Everything was closing and we were opening.
Yeah. Now, this question could be redundant, but let's see. Earlier we mentioned movies that scared us as kids. What I want to know, as a kid, you said get into that mindset.
Right.
As a kid, what was your greatest fear? Not movies, in your life. When you were in single-digit years, what was your biggest fear? Because I'm assuming it's changed into becoming an adult, but we'll get into that in a minute. If you don't have an answer, that's okay, or if you can't remember.
I'm trying to think really, because probably like anyone else, not being around your family, being left behind by your folks.
Yes, this is good. You've opened up something for me.
Being left alone, but I was taught at a very young age how to survive out in the wilderness if I were to ever get lost. But, being lost as a kid out in the middle of somewhere and not being able to find your folks like anyone else. I can't think of anything else.
That is
scared
actually
me.
a great answer, because
great.
that is a very common fear I understand, which I hadn't thought about. Now, the fear of being without mom and dad as a kid, because I used to have consistent nightmares as a kid about being kidnapped. I would try to go outside, even in the backyard, there'd always be a bad guy, and he always wanted to kidnap me, and I would run, and he'd come after me, and it was scary. Later, when I developed my fandom of nightmares and phobias and fears, and I researched, I discovered, at least from my generation, a lot of kids who consistently had nightmares of being kidnapped watched horror movies at a young age. And so I'm like, there's a connection between developing a taste for fear. Probably some of it is psychological. I mean, like, I wasn't so afraid of the horror movies as a kid that I would turn them off, but they stick with you when the lights go out. And they manifest into nightmares.
Yep.
And what's a kid's greatest fear? Being taken away from mom and dad. So it connects your child mind to fictional horror, to the only real horror you might know, being kidnapped. I always thought that was interesting. I hadn't even thought of it until you mentioned it, but that is true. What do you guys, anything as kids scare you? Fears?
I'm not even allergic to bees, but I really hated bees. I don't know where, well, I do kind of. I mean, I was stung several times when I was younger. There was one point where I had one in the back of my shirt, and I thought it was the tag, and I put my finger back there, and you're laughing at me.
No, I'm laughing because I picture you waking up in the middle of the night, not the bees! Even now. So that's actually what I'm laughing at.
Very cliche, yeah. No, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't to that degree. But yeah, it was in the back of my shirt, and I put my finger back there to move what I thought was the tag, and I still don't know to this day how it did it, but it double stung me. Stung me in the back of the neck and on the finger.
Oh, a double sting bee. That's great.
I freaked out. I ran, screaming, tearing my shirt off, the whole nine. And yeah, I was not fond of insects or bugs stinging me.
I still am not. Like, I'm more comfortable around them, especially bees. Like, I can handle.
Because they're always around you.
Well, the thing is, I've heard rumors that bees don't like the color black, which might be true because I wear a lot of black, and I've had bees, like if I'm near a hive or something, I've had bees just like dive bomb me, not sting me, just bounce off me like little bullets. And, like,
it's like, oh, didn't see you there.
Oh yeah, and then bees like my hair. They like to land in my. I have on several occasions been like, what's in my hair? Ah.
And it doesn't sting you? You're good.
No, I've never been stung.
Yeah, I'm not an animal whisperer or anything, but I do love bees, and I feel like we have a mutual respect.
He likes
I once had a wasp
bumblebees.
land on my face, just hang out for a couple minutes, and then fly off. And I wasn't even afraid. I love bees and wasps, and
as long as they don't get into my drinks and sting me on my lip, I'm fine.
yeah.
Hornets,
That did
wasps.
happen.
That happened.
The one and only time I've been stung here in Goldfield.
Yeah.
Well, if you were younger, maybe it might have been a little more traumatic, I guess. But yeah, that was.
Yeah, I don't remember ever being stung by anything when I was a kid. And I was always out here in the desert of Arizona.
Yeah.
I was born in this desert.
Yeah. So that was kind of what it's like, when you're afraid as a kid. It's extremely different than when you get older. Things evolve and change. Even in high school, which is kind of considered, it's not middle age, but it's kind of considered the middle of life in a way. At least none of us are seniors yet. So until then, before that, adulthood and high school, which is an awkward time. What were some of your fears in high school? I mean, you were a kid, now you're in high school. What are the new fears as a high schooler?
When I was in high school, my anxiety was at like peak level, and I was scared of everything. I did not talk to anyone. I was a honors kid. I'd read my little books in the library and like not make friends. But I did get bullied a lot. And so I was terrified, especially of boys, because they would be really mean. And especially when I was in, I was just too cool for them.
Yeah.
Especially when I was a freshman in my gym class. I specifically remember this because after that I was still in like PE classes, but they were like fitness classes, mostly for girls. But my freshman year, I was in with a bunch of senior boys who needed their PE credit. And they were so mean. Like when I was walking down the hallway to the locker room, comments every day, and I just started dreading it. And it was my first class of the day, and I hated it so much, and I was always so scared to go to school because I didn't want to deal with these boys making comments. And then one day I just got fed up, and one of them started talking to me, and I looked at him and I said, "Shut up." And he looked at me, and I looked at him back, and he just stared at me. And then all of the other guys sort of noticed, and they all looked at me, and I was just staring at them. And of course I get to the point of the hallway where, like, you know, I'm passing them.
Right.
I turn around. I walk backwards down the entire hallway, making direct eye contact with this one guy. And guess what? Never made another comment. Because I just acted completely unhinged. And it scared them.
There you go.
I scared them for scaring me.
Acting crazy usually works.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
Acting.
I mean,
Practicing for reality, yes.
exactly.
This is just a rehearsal.
Yeah, remember, this is high school. We're getting used to it.
So, what about you, Riley?
Similar to Chloe, I was very law-abiding. I followed the rules. I tried to be a goody two-shoes, even brown-nosing at times. But I knew that made me feel good. But whatever. But in that same way, my biggest fear was disappointing people academically in my life. You know, I was doing so well in all these things, and then the idea is like, okay, what if I don't? Or what if my parents or somebody is disappointed in everything that I'm doing? So that kind of drove me to just do as much as I could personally. And looking back on it, I'm like, why was I doing that? My go-to, my motto is, as long as you meet your own expectations, then you're doing everything right. Yep. If you're falling short of what you expect yourself to do, then make a change. But in high school, you know, my biggest fear was like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, because then, you know, I get the good grades, I get this and that, and get the job that I want. But you look at those things and you're like, you need to live in the moment. You need to do everything that you need to do, check all your boxes, and then at the end of the day, you can go to sleep happy. So
Yep. Yeah.
That was my...
I can relate to that one.
It's a growing kind of thing, you know? So.
See, mine was opposite. They got the goody two-shoes over here, and I was like the outcast. I mean, I've had hearing aids since I was in 3rd grade. So if you can imagine big, bulky hearing aids throughout your school, you know, I was picked on and bullied by everybody. Broke a few arms, broke a few, stuff.
You know, I was to kind of put that.
You broke their arms.
Yes.
Okay, I was you didn't clarify that.
Yeah, I broke a couple of arms of their people.
Yeah, you had enough, and
but you know, I was the one that, you know, if something happened in school, it was me and my friends that probably got blamed. You know, because we weren't the in crowd. We were the ones that hung out at the store at lunch, you know, or whatever. So that's a totally different.
Listening to
I hated school.
For all.
Yeah, I hated school. They could, Injustice for All and Ride the Lightning in my back of my truck, you know.
That's the way to do it.
So
you wanted the outcast with their metal.
What about you, Matt? Do you share anything that we say or something different?
I have actually. It's funny. I wrote the question. And I don't even know the answer. You got the closest. Maybe I would say, because I had it pretty easy. I don't know what I did to get off easily, but I was one of those kids that could walk with the jocks, the athletes, the rockers, the goths, the nerds.
See, I could walk with anybody too.
Any of them.
But you could do it in front of people. Yeah. I was friends with all the cheerleaders and the football players, but not in front of everybody because of their image and stuff like that. I'd go to the football games, call so-and-so and say, hey, can I have one of the footballs, you know, and she'd throw it to me.
Anything to
but she wouldn't talk to me in the hall. They wouldn't look at me in the hall or anything.
Here's your football.
No, because I should have been a total nerd. I liked metal. I wore like sci-fi movie shirts. I carried a camera around, like that dude from Scream 2 or whatever. That was me. I was that guy, and I don't know. So, and all my teachers called me Mr. Mason, and like I hung out with seniors as a freshman. So I think the closest when I say you was you said disappointment. Disappointing my parents was probably the biggest concern. I wasn't always a very good student though, because if I did not like a subject, I didn't care. Now, things like math or whatever, the typical school subjects, I was either okay at or not okay at, just kind of blah. But literature, anything creative. We did a segment on Edgar Allan Poe at one point, any kind of creative writing. When I discovered film and learned how to get film in school to mix, enthralled. It just, so I kind of had my own path I was on, always to go creative and always do it that way. So my point is I wasn't always the best student, like math, for example. My parents, they want you to succeed in math, but I didn't always. But I made up for it by getting into film school with honors. Like, it was like one of those situations. So did I have a fear? Not exactly, but the closest is if I knew my parents were going to be upset with me, even more than disappointing myself.
Yeah.
Now, do I wish I could go back to high school and kind of redo some things? Sometimes.
If I knew now,
then
what I know now.
No, like
I would tear that place up, man.
Just to do. I'll tell you one thing. This is not really a fear. Miss Lopez, who taught me English in 9th grade. If
Gillespie,
you happen to see this, I
grade.
apologize. I've always felt bad for what I'm about to say. We read The Joy Luck Club as a group. We read it as a class. I wasn't paying that much attention. My mind was probably in a film project or something. I was getting heavily into that at the time. I didn't pay that much attention to the Joy Luck Club, to the point that I only remember bits and pieces of it. So, in my mind though, it didn't strike me as interesting. I wouldn't feel that way today, but back then, it didn't strike me as interesting. Now, it wasn't always this way with books. I loved certain books we read. We read Gatsby, Moby Dick, all the Edgar Allan Poe stuff. I loved all that stuff, but the Joy Luck Club wasn't doing it for me at the time. And I had already established myself in English class as a fan of literature and somebody who was creative. Miss Lopez, at the time I'm assuming probably not Miss anymore, but at the time Miss Lopez, I think saw this in me, that I stood out in the world of creative writing and stuff. So I think she admired that. I was too stupid at the time to catch on to that. So we finished reading Joy Luck Club, class discussion. She's like, so what did we think? People are giving their different answers. I'm not going to say a word. I'm just over there minding my business. Normally, she's not the type to normally call on you, but she just goes, Matt, yeah? Did you like it? And I went, nope. And I saw her face go from smile to, she kind of like, really? And I was like, no. And I explained why, and I remember this kid in the back going, yeah, because Freddy Krueger wasn't in it. So there was a little of that. I was known for that. That's not really getting picked on, but because I actually admired that.
You ate that up.
Yeah, I ate that up.
Bring it on.
But I was like, no, it's a little too this, a little too that. Not for me, whatever. And then later on in life, I understood. She thought I was going to love the Joy Luck Club. And she thought I was going to respond with, I loved it, and explain why. Because I was known to tell the whole class my opinion and kind of explain things. But I missed the frickin' boat on that one. And to this day, when I think about it, it gets to me. I'm like, she called on me as an example, and I blew it.
Messed it up.
Yeah, so, Miss Lopez, if you happen to see this, I feel completely different, and I'm sorry, because I realized what you were trying to do. Without a shadow of a doubt, I realized what you were trying to do. I know what you were trying to do, and I ruined it, and I have always felt bad for that. Not so much a fear, or something I thought I would talk about on the podcast, but there it is. So disappointing, letting people down, misleading. Those, I guess, are my high school fears.
Yeah.
Which, thank you, therapy group Fear Frontier. I didn't know that I myself until right now.
We all charge by the hour.
Yeah.
All right.
I charge double.
Yeah, this guy. Just the arm, or you break my arm muscle over here.
There you go.
But so high school is scary, y'all.
High school sucks.
But then you get older.
And
What are
it
you
sucks
afraid
more.
of as an adult?
Everything.
Bills.
Everything.
Bills. The world's so scary outside that door.
Bills, jobs.
That is a loaded question in this day and age.
Mine's really easy.
Mine's pretty straightforward too, I think.
I mean, if you want to get simple, simplest out.
We'll start. Go ahead.
Not achieving what I want to achieve. When I was younger, I always wanted to, be a grown-up so I could start doing what I wanted to do and start, living the dreams that I had because I was always a big dreamer. And the thought of, not achieving those goals that I've set for myself and, looking back one day with regret eats me up every time. Every single time. And constantly I'm, comparing myself where I am right now to where I thought I would be when I was younger. And it's constant where I'm like, well, I should have done this already. I should already be in this position. I should already have that done. And if there's something that's going to keep me up at night, that's it. Fears of not being who I want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You always got time. Continuing on that.
Yeah.
I mean, technically.
Chipping away, right? Slowly, that's the goal in life. For sure.
Deep.
I mean,
that was deep.
I was like, was that so sobering? Gosh.
No, that's...
Sorry, I didn't mean to get philosophical.
No, that was good.
That's true.
No,
I've never really worried about it myself, but then again, I'm from a different generation than y'all.
A lot of expectations.
Yeah, that word does good in ways. But I have them, but I've never really put, it's never bothered me like that.
Yeah.
I guess I'm lucky, I don't know.
What are you afraid of then?
What am I afraid of?
Yeah.
What are we talking exactly?
just
High school
in your
What's
adult
like
life.
a
what,
fear?
Okay,
like
yeah.
right now.
Right
today,
now.
what is your biggest fear?
Anything that has to do with my children.
That's I knew. I was like, she's gonna talk about his kids.
Anything. I mean, this whole world can go to hell as long as I have my family.
Good
and
news.
My friends.
It is.
I know, right? As long as I have my kids and my family, I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything else, don't care. But losing them, and you're gonna have some action hero blow the shit up type of thing happening. You touch my family, and the Punisher comes out or something.
Yeah, right.
So that would be, as an adult now, probably. I mean, I can't say losing a parent. Done did that already. That sucked. Losing my kids. Yeah, that's probably the biggest one.
That makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Riley?
Me, I think. I mean, the cliche, the stereotype is, as you get older, you fear death more. You're always between now and 2 seconds from now, all four of us just got closer to dying.
I was waiting for death to make an appearance tonight.
Yeah, see, I'm not afraid of death, so.
I've
died 5 times and I'm still here.
Creepy, like the Grim Reaper just walked into the room.
It's just got ominous, darker here.
Mm-hmm. Come sit down right here.
Right here.
I ain't afraid of him. He's just doing his job.
I think immediate death is what I drive 100 miles a day.
I thought you were gonna say 100 miles per hour. Like me too.
I try to
What's so new about that?
I do think about that when I'm driving because I drive a fast car. So when I'm driving, I do think not that I'm gonna screw up, but what if the guy next to me doesn't use his blinker when he comes over? Right.
Exactly.
You're not gonna have time to react.
And that goes back to the kids. I die. What's going on with my kids?
Exactly.
For me,
That
I don't
fear
fear death itself.
It's just what happens after. Are they going to be okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like you're saying, driving, and it can happen in an instant, and it won't even be your fault. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
And statistically, the more that you're on the road, the more that you're doing all these things, the higher chance you have of that happening. So that's kind of a fear of mine, I would say.
It's crazy because the
Sudden
dying
death,
of
interesting.
dying
sudden.
instantly to me would be great. When we talk later, the fear thing, it kind of goes with the dying part, but it's different.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I can see that, but I also see the point you're making. Like, if I get a, life-ending disease,
no time
I
to
at
prepare.
least have time to
Right.
make my final amends.
Yeah, exactly.
Say my goodbyes. Do the things that I wanted to do before I died. But if I get in a car accident on my way home tonight,
This might be really morbid. I'm almost more afraid of getting in an accident and living. like a bad accident in living.
Yeah.
Like,
The afterwards, what had not being able to talk or see or hear or feel
Yeah.
or move or something
if it just
like that.
altered
Now we're in a
everything.
Metallica song.
Yes, we are.
Bring back to Injustice for All.
Yep.
And a book, if we want to get technical. But
Totally.
Yeah, there you go. The book again.
We love books.
Were you done with?
No, yeah, I think that's just about it. But
I was just gonna say, mine's pretty simple, which might be deep or not deep, but it's pretty straightforward. I'm almost having trouble saying it. It's the fear of not being able to provide for people that need to be provided for. I want to be the white knight shining armor, and if I can't, it's that's a fear of mine. Not being able to provide.
yeah,
Yeah, I see that, especially when you have a family. That's a big fear.
Yeah.
Especially now.
No, yeah, times
Nowadays.
is gonna be tough. Yeah.
I guess it always has been a fear for folks, but yeah, that's a big.
but yeah, everything that we just said as adults kind of links together. You know, meeting our goals, potentially dying all of a sudden, and providing for people we care about, caring for our families, and it just goes to show.
So we've covered being frightened as a kid, in high school, and as an adult, but all these things added up. What is the most frightened you have ever been in your life? The moment when you were the most afraid.
This is
It could
Mine
be
is
anything. 'Cause
Okay.
the story that I'm thinking of isn't philosophical. I thought I was gonna be
Mine
killed by
is
an
mine
animal.
is more don't be stupid on my story.
There, I gotta narrow it down, Michael.
Yeah.
I know, I'm like, you just described like every day, man.
Well,
mean-
yeah, okay. Well, this was
Go for
to
it.
top it. Okay, I got one. This 1998. I'll tell you exactly when it was. 1998, Zion National Park, Utah. Okay, we are on the Overlook Trail. You've gone through the tunnel, and people that have gone to Zion National Park know what the tunnel. The canyon overlook is. You get out of the tunnel, you park, and you walk around like this, and you're looking over this beautiful canyon. Okay, and you're on the top. It's about 25, almost 3,000 foot drop. Okay. I'm jumping around. I'm having a good time because I climb all the time. Doesn't scare me at all, the heights and stuff like that. So I'm jumping and stuff. Well, dumb me wanted to see over the edge and not hold on to the rail. So I go over to this edge and I'm laying on my stomach, right? And I'm scooting to the edge of it, and I'm getting there and I'm looking and everything. Well, my dumb butt didn't, brush away any gravel or any dirt and everything. And as I'm going like that, I slide forward.
it's loose. Yep.
It's loose. And that instant of feeling like you're going to go over, that's probably the most scared I've ever been in my life. I called my father. He grabbed my feet, pulled me up, and I went it that way and jumped on a bunch of other things away from the canyon.
Oh, wait.
Oh, yeah.
No, see, that's what I mean. Yeah, see, sometimes it's
So,
those
yeah,
instant
that-
moments. You thought you were gonna die for
That
seconds,
was
like, yeah.
probably the most. That was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, the biggest like spike, like
The,
That
the
adrenaline.
gut. Yeah,
Yeah.
that gut adrenaline.
Fear, yeah.
Like
This is the last moment.
This was a crossroads. This could have
Yeah.
gone one way.
This
or
could have been-
And that's,
yeah.
that's kind of how mine is too, because I thought maybe everyone would have like these philosophical answers to this one too. I'm like, no, mine's pretty simple.
It's pretty simple.
I was,
I
I
was
mean,
gonna die.
there's several I want to talk about, but I'm gonna go with one that I kind of touched on earlier. I mentioned, I believe earlier in the episode, I mentioned a bear in Sholo, Arizona. My friend and I were staying at a cabin owned by his grandmother, and we did some very stupid things. This wasn't
No, not
supposed
you.
to be one of. Well, for example, we took the recording that we got off the internet of a wounded rabbit, and then we went out in the middle of the woods and played it because we wanted to see what would approach. Nothing. I said stupid.
That's
No-
fascination.
Every predator in the
nothing
forest.
approached us, but we did hear a bunch of howls in the distance. We're like, all right, that's good. Now we had this golf cart that we drove, this like souped up golf cart, like going through. It was pretty cool, risen tires. That's a whole nother adventure, because one night we went out on foot. I don't remember what we were doing other than the woods are scary at night, and I like that. So we're out there, and it's weird. I saw this really unique looking flower, like this white carnation looking flower, the only one out in the middle of the woods, and I wanted to figure out what it was, so I walked over to it. Sure enough, it's this one flower. There's nothing around it that even looks like it. I'm like, unique, this is cool. And then I look up and see what looks like just a pile of bear crap. And I look over and I see another one. And then the tree in front of me has all this bark ripped off of it. And I'm like, this isn't.
That's exactly what he thought.
Like there's been some bears here. And I looked at my friend Tyler, and like he looks at me and I'm like, is this like evidence of bears? And all of a sudden we hear like, and we're like, it sounded exactly like the movies. Mm-hmm. We get closer, I'm like, I think we need to go back. Then closer by, and I'm like, this is really happening. Run. And like,
what you're not supposed to do.
Well, it's dark. We don't know what to do. We don't know where it's coming from. So all we have to go on is, I mean, it's black. There's the moonlight through the trees, which provides spaces of light on the path, not a full like illumination, just here and there. And then there is the hint of light at the end of the woods, which is the cabin. And I yell, run for the light and don't stop. We just run. And you can hear all around us the trees. I don't know if there's one big one or more than one, but and then like, and we're just, oh God, we're just like running, and we just ran and ran and ran until there were four walls surrounding us. We slammed back the back door and just like we ran from some bear or bears that we couldn't see in the dark. And I have a few stories like that, but in that moment I'm like, am I gonna die? Like, is a bear gonna come out and kind of like T-bone attack me, like clever girl? Like I said, am I gonna run into one? Is it gonna outrun me? Am I gonna trip and fall? Is my friend gonna die? All that was going through my head for what was probably a 100-yard run.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm battling in my head whether or not it would have been more terrifying if it was daylight, or the fact that you couldn't see might have made it.
Had it been daylight, I feel like I may have not just immediately ran. I might have like.
Yeah, I think dark. I think the dark would. You can see what's coming after you. At least you have.
I hope if it was light outside, you would have noticed the evidence of the bear before.
True.
You were right. In
It might have been
area.
scarier seeing it. You like if I saw the bear in the light.
Right.
You're right. I don't know.
Yeah, that's where I'm.
Hadn't thought about it. I don't know, man. I pull an Anthony Hopkins and like have a spear, man. We're gonna kill the bear. What one man can do, another can do. And, like we pull us The Edge. You guys seen that movie? The Edge.
Yep.
Okay, that made no sense.
I'm sure I have, but it's
Viewers,
been a while.
help me out. You know what I'm talking about. You two.
You wanna go first? All right, I got one.
Oh, you go first.
Okay, all right, I got one. Yeah, I was maybe in 3rd grade, and my friend, both of his parents worked way too much, and so he had a nanny. And one day, he invited me to go swimming. His nanny was watching somebody's house that had a pool, and I was like, cool, sounds great. I've mentioned this several times, but I am very tall. So growing up, I didn't actually learn how to swim until I was like 12, 13. Most kids much younger than that. But I never really needed to. Whenever I went swimming or went with my family, I could stand wherever. So it didn't really bother me none. However, I wish I would have learned how to swim for this, because the way that this pool was, I'd never seen a pool like it. The shallow end was perfectly normal. And typically, a deep end of a pool kind of gradually goes down. This had like a drop.
I've been in pools like that.
Right?
Yeah.
And if
You
you're
have
not
a diving board?
it might have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deeper thing.
Right, exactly. So And I was just, messing around. In fact, my buddy, he was out of the pool at this point, and it was just me. It was just, hanging out in the pool. And I went too far. I took one step too far, and banana peel slipped and went into the deep end. And I panicked, and I tried struggling for air. I started to inhale water, and I only knew this afterwards, but the nanny was there. She just thought I was messing around. Thank God my friend was like,
you don't know how to swim.
Something's wrong. So he jumped in and literally dragged me into the shallow end. If he hadn't have done that, I don't know what would have happened. Right. We talked about it before. It felt like several minutes, but it was probably 15, 20 seconds max. But during that time, I was terrified.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Also shows where my mind goes. When you say banana peel slipped, that bothered me more than the drowning part. The like smacking your head on the edge of the pool or something. Like that freaks me out.
Yeah. But yeah, it was, that was terrifying.
I had a story in mind, and then Riley reminded me of one. So this actually happened pretty recently, March of 2023. I'm in Florida visiting my mom. And where she lives is like right on the Panhandle, and there's this place called Crab Island, and basically it's where all of the water in the bay is like way shallow in this one area. So it's
clear water, right?
Yep, clear water.
Yep.
So it's a really popular tourist spot. We go out one day on a boat to go hang out because it wasn't exactly ideal time for it because usually the summer is the best. But that meant it was less crowded. So we went out there. It was sunny. We were playing in the water, just having a good time. It was me, her, and her boyfriend. And we're, doing just hanging out, sort of trying to avoid all the other people because it's a bunch of, drunk college kids. And so we're just doing our own thing, and we watch another boat pull in. And it's, this family, and they're all, hanging out in the water. The biggest issue with Crab Island is that you can rent a boat and drive the boat and all of that. Some people don't realize what you have to do when you're doing that with a boat and all of the rules and regulations. And as we're watching, this family's boat starts drifting. And we're just watching and we're like, this is so weird, that sucks. And there are patrols around, so we're like, well, I'm sure someone will eventually go get the boat. Right. And then we watch 2 of the men from the family go out and try to get the boat. And then we see a 3rd one start sort of panicking. And then we see him go out. And my mom looks at her boyfriend and says, they're drowning. And he takes off. Well, she's basically like, go help them.
Right.
He takes off. And I'm stupid. I am 5 foot. I am not a super strong swimmer. I take off after him. I don't have self-control. I see danger. I want to help. But we get out there. And the tide is pretty normal until you get out over open water, and then it just pulls you. And I'm out there, and my mom's boyfriend has a floaty, and he tosses it to me because I'm right by one of the guys, and he says, don't let him grab you, he will pull you under.
Right.
And of course it's not his fault, it's instinct. You're drowning, someone's there, you're trying to get them to help you. But a full-grown man grabbing me, 5 foot, 96 pounds, I'm under. And so I felt that moment of panic. And then the rescue team comes out. There's a bunch of people, yelling, trying to get people on boats. And I'm like, they got it from here. I start trying to swim back to shore. And that's when I notice, no matter how hard I'm swimming, I just keep getting yanked back. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could drown out here. I could literally drown out here. And they yank me onto the boat because they're like, well, we don't want you to drown, so get up here. And so on the boat was really when I started panicking because one of the men had been really waterlogged. He was in and out of consciousness because he had inhaled so much salt water. He was fine. Everyone was fine. But it was really on the boat when it hit me oh my gosh, I literally almost could have died. Right. And so I totally get it. That absolute fear of this
the ocean
is the moment.
Does weird stuff. I know you love the ocean. I mean, the day in California, dang ocean dang near killed me. I mean, it pulled me and my dad out, and the waves were just.
The story that I almost told before the bear actually involved the ocean.
Yeah.
I love it, but one of the reasons I do love it is because.
The ocean. I absolutely adore the ocean. I've been in love with the ocean for as long as I can remember. But I love the ocean because I have a very, very healthy respect for her.
Oh, I respect nature 100%.
She can
scare you
take
to
and
death.
destroy whatever
Yep.
she wants.
Yeah, you
and
have no control.
I am very, very mindful of that every time I go out into the water. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
if this is what happens, if I die from something, I accept that risk because
beside
I'm
that.
walking into something that is unknown. Which is actually sort of funny too, just because all of our stories really talk about that dark unknown. For
Yeah.
you, it was the end of the pool.
It was the end of the
For
pool.
you two, it was
Yeah.
the woods or the cliff.
Yep.
And for me, it was the ocean.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to get the idea, but I'll just explicitly ask, do you have a phobia of water or drowning? Because I don't, and I still don't.
I can go
despite
swimming.
that.
I
Hey, we
don't-
went swimming in the
Yeah.
lakes over here, and
I
these,
don't-
these lakes kill you.
Yeah.
Which is really funny because I learned how to swim because my grandmother was very old-fashioned and she shoved me in a pool once when I was very, very young. And that should have traumatized me, but it didn't. And I
That's
love
strange.
water still.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
So as we talk about the things that have frightened us most in our life, none of our stories were paranormal.
Yep.
No.
Which is interesting because paranormal is what we do, but clearly we do not have a fear of it.
Nope.
Now, and our job as paranormal investigators and guiding a ghost tour, we almost long to be scared, but we do have a rule in Fear Frontier. We do not run.
Nope.
What I want to know, since we're clearly not afraid of ghosts in a traditional sense, in the world of the paranormal, what would make you run?
Those thingies that crawl up the steps. I see something going like this up some
Oh, yep.
steps, and if I can't shoot it,
I mean, you
then
can
my
try.
only other option is I'm out of there. But it's either I'm going to shoot you or I'm going to run. Those creepy things coming out of the basement or out of
You go.
So yeah, I mean, if something was literally physically chasing me and I couldn't physically stop it, knowing that it's stronger than me or something, maybe I'd run. Or
That's
I'd
the
die.
thing. That's the thing because like I don't even know the answer to this.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that would be like paranormal. I mean, there's cryptids, and it's like you can't. It's almost not fair to bring them into it because duh, anything with teeth and claws.
Right.
Duh. So I'm gonna say
Aliens?
the only thing that might get me to run out of room would be something like poltergeist activity that was not messing around, like heavy
If they're throwing
furniture
knives at
and
us or
knives
something,
or
yeah.
guns going off, like. But that almost, I mean, a person could do that, I would think. So that's a tough one for me because I would like to say if I saw the apparition of a headless woman walk out of the room, would I run? I don't know.
I might go, huh?
I might be
yeah.
really like, whoa, now you don't know what they're going to do, but if they're not trying to hurt me,
Yeah, I'll be like,
I'd more be like, with my
yeah,
phone,
the camera's
like,
coming out.
yeah.
I'm going to document. Yeah, I'm documenting.
My jaw would drop. Yeah.
Like,
I'd be like, yo,
Yeah.
smile.
No, piggybacking off of you, being like physically hurt by a spirit, which is funny because I did get scratched on the mine one time.
Yeah.
On when.
But one that
Ghost tour.
is
But
long
yeah, on a
lasting,
ghost tour.
maybe.
But
yeah.
I didn't really notice it until after. Like I felt the burn, and I was like, "That's weird." And then later I checked, and I was like, "Oh, there are scratches on my ankle."
Yeah.
But
Your ankle.
if
Crispy
I
ghost.
if I if I was like very clearly like physically assaulted by a spirit, like hair pulled, you know, being hit, being scratched visibly, I'd
See,
be out.
Have you never
Yeah,
had
see,
your
I've
hair
been-
pulled here?
I have not had my hair pulled here.
That's common in
Yeah.
Goldfield Mine. That's actually very common.
Yeah, I've
They're
been
scared of my
touched
hair.
and pulled
They're not
and-
used to it.
They're all like, haha.
Like, that's a weird color. What's she dying of consumption?
What is that? No, it's me over here.
So yeah, that's the thing.
yeah,
So
I mean-
we have established we don't run. All of us had trouble kind of answering. Except you were the most specific. We all were like, if this type of activity, you straight up said thing crawling upstairs. What if it walked up the stairs? What if it was the same thing but it walked and it didn't crawl? You afraid of crawling, Michael? Did you have a
I hate
crawling incident
babies.
when you were a child? Should we go back?
Babies.
Should we go back to the child part of the
The
podcast? and-
crawling thing. I went from
Crawling.
straight from crawling. I hated it. Nah,
Crawling PTSD.
It's something like that. I don't know. Nah, it's just maybe the unnaturalness of
Yes,
it.
that's a good point.
You know, maybe
Yeah.
it's just the unnaturalness of it. Because it's not that I fear cryptids like elementals. I just know you don't mess with them. Mm-hmm. You know?
Now, this actually brings up, because the next question, now that we kind of know we don't really fear ghosts, the next question is, why do we fear ghosts? But when I say we, I mean people. Why do people fear ghosts at all? Like, because if you see a dead person at a funeral, generally you're not afraid of it. It's probably because it's expected. Mm-hmm. So what is unexpected, unnatural, unknown, that's sort of where what's eerie becomes frightening when you add the unknown element.
But also think of it, they've always been taught that it either doesn't exist, period, it's fake and it's make-believe, so if they do see it, it's going to freak them out. They're going to be like, whoa, you just totally ruined my world because that's not supposed to be
Call
real.
mom on the phone, you said it wasn't real.
I feel like another big reason why people are scared of ghosts is like the same reason why babies are scared of like random things, because it's something that they don't know, that they've never interacted with before, and it's happening to them for the first time.
Right.
And in that sense, a adult seeing a ghost is like the same thing as a baby seeing their mom in a hat.
Right.
Like they're gonna freak out. They're gonna be like, "Who are you?
Yeah, what
are
going-
you?"
Dad shaved
And
his
like,
beard.
Earlier I mentioned one of the reasons the large Marge thing scared me is because it was a scary scene in what was otherwise a
Unexpected.
comedy.
Right.
The unexpected can be terrifying.
Yeah.
People, when they're expecting to be scared, it's harder to scare them.
That too, yeah.
Yeah, so
It's like
when
working here.
Well, the thing is, there's the nighttime version of Goldfield, the Fear Frontier side, where we're expecting it.
Right.
The daytime, when you're just locking up the mine at
Yep.
the end of the day, and you're
Yep.
by yourself, flipping lights off, locking doors, and
people
then
throwing
something
chains
happens.
at you.
You're like, yeah, that's different. That's
Okay.
different than on a ghost tour. I'm like, well, to the guests, a lot of our guests aren't expecting anything, especially the scoffers. We get the
Right.
skeptics, of course. They have learned the hard way and the satisfying way for us that scary stuff happens. It finds you whether you want to find it or not sometimes. Because to us, are ghosts scary? Us four would be like, they're more fascinating.
Yeah.
You get a fifth person in from off the street, they'd be like, what do you mean ghosts? Like, well, why? Like, yeah, so.
oh no, absolutely. I want to take my sister on one of our ghost hunts when we do them,
Nice.
because she is a skeptic,
Love skeptics.
and I would love to see something happen to her.
I'm a bigger skeptic than a lot of people realize.
But you're not a skeptic with an attitude. You're a skeptic
No,
with the,
I'm a skeptic where I also can admit when I'm wrong.
Oh no, my sister is a skeptic with an attitude. So
Well, no, that's the thing is...
Those are the ones that get hurt in the minds.
I tell people, because I tell people on the tour, that on the ghost tour, that I'm skeptical enough that something has to pretty much grab me, look me in the face, and shake me going, I'm real. But here in Goldfield, that happens. So for the next segment here, I'm going to read off 5 phobias. And I want to know if anyone at this table has them. Is that cool? I might butcher these. Starting simple. Claustrophobia, the fear of tight spaces.
How tight? How tight? As long as
However-
We'll
I mean,
say
as
tight,
long as it's
tight enough that the average person would.
Yeah, if
feel
I'm
like
not,
it's
if
tight.
I cannot
Tube
move,
slide
yeah,
tight.
if I cannot move my arms or my legs, yes,
Okay.
I will hurt somebody.
Yeah.
But as long as I
I-
can do this, I'm fine.
I love tight spaces. I find
Love
them very comforting. So I if I have like a small space that I can like sit in when I need a second, I'm like a little bug. I'm like crawling into the cocoon. I like tight spaces. So.
Yeah, believe it or not, same. I used to spend the night at a friend's house, and I slept. There were usually like 3 or 4 people there, so the sleeping spaces were scant. But I would either sleep in the closet, which was very small, or the small little space between his mattress and the bed.
How long ago was this?
Yeah, exactly.
I picture you standing up, asleep in the closet.
No, this was. I
It's
was.
like Dracula hanging upside down.
Yeah.
I wish. That's a great picture. No, I was maybe 12, 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
you
you
were
were
a
still
little
like
tall.
6 foot.
I was still almost 6 foot at that point. But yeah, no, I don't know why. Yeah, I'm not.
That's interesting.
Not very claustrophobic.
I never thought of liking tight spaces, but I'm not afraid of them. I don't have claustrophobia, but I never thought of liking them. But maybe because I do like the feeling of being sort of like cocooned and yeah. I do sleep under the covers a lot.
The moment
I
I
like
realized
the whole being in a sleeping bag feeling. So maybe.
the moment I realized I liked tight spaces was when I went to my first haunted house. They had this like weird little thing inside where you were like in a coffin, and you like it like jolted the coffin around and stuff. And I was in that coffin, and I was like, "Gosh, this is the best place I've ever been." Like this is I would sleep in a coffin.
I've literally been tempted to buy a coffin to sleep in.
Yeah.
I've actually price checked coffins for that reason before, whatever that means. Yeah. Next one. I don't know if this is the actual name, but it says here social phobia, the fear of judgment or rejection. You touched on this earlier.
Yes and no. Yeah. When I was younger, yes. Now, not so much, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were times where, yeah, I was always worried because with my hearing aids, I was always being picked on. Now it's like, I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
So I can talk in front of people. Obviously, there was a time where I was hiding. Yeah, I wasn't talking. I'm in the back of the classroom or hiding now. And then it turned to where, yeah, I can do anything and make an idiot of myself, make you laugh. Let's go.
Right on.
I think of a phobia as like sort of the extreme version of that, of like a normal, oh no, I like this girl, I don't want her to reject me, whatever.
Right.
But absolutely I do. I still do to this day. I had it worse when I was younger, but there is definitely that fear. I'll go anywhere, and if I see someone looking at me, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're judging me. Oh my gosh, they're looking at this, they're looking at that, they're pointing out all these insecurities I have. And so, yeah.
Sometimes there's people that you want to impress or you want to think highly of you, and then there's other times where I'm only going to see this person once, so I don't care what you think. But
Right.
I think that's where I lie. If I'm really trying to impress somebody or it's for something important to me, then yeah, I'm going to be worried about it and really, yeah, it's going to get in my head. But if it's somebody I'm just seeing once,
Right. I mean, if it's a good job interview,
Yeah.
that could make a fear out of that. I mean, you really want the job, or you really want the part, or whatever. That could be a fear, social fear. So yeah.
I don't have this as a phobia. The closest I get is I want people to like me. I don't care if they don't. That's their problem. I don't think I go out and do anything out of the way to make people not like me. I try to get along with people. I try to understand people. So the closest I get is to like, oh, you don't like me? Why not? But I mean, if it's like a relationship, but if you are fearing that in a relationship, you might have a relationship problem. Nice and simple. Arachnophobia. No fear of spiders.
Nope.
No, I like spiders.
No.
Me neither. I love them. Acrophobia. Fear of heights.
Nope.
No, but I am scared of ladders.
Being on them.
Being on a ladder, but not
Well,
scared
falling
of heights
off
itself.
of them. Yeah, falling
Just
off
ladders.
or something.
Just ladders. I fell off one at my old job. And
Wall ladder or like triangle ladder. I don't know what do you call it.
Either.
Step ladder, whatever.
Either.
Not step.
Being on an elevated ladder scares me. I fell off one at a job I worked in the past.
That does
and
hurt.
really injured myself.
Yeah.
So now I'm scared of being on ladders, but I'm not scared of heights themselves.
Yep.
I am.
Well, you're already in the.
Yeah, you're already in
sky,
the stratosphere, so.
But believe it or not, I am scared of heights. Like I grew up in Seattle, and so as most of you know, in Seattle the big thing is the Space Needle. I've gone up there a few times, not since they got the glass floor, thank God. But yeah, I am terrified of it. I don't care. Maybe it's because I'm so high that most of the guard railings are so low to me, and I'm like,
Yeah,
half my
you have.
body,
Yeah.
I feel like the momentum I could topple
Flip over
and
right
fall
over. Yeah.
over,
I can
exactly.
see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
If I'm contained in four walls, like in an elevator going up, that's not a big deal. But if there's a guard railing, I'm staying as far away from that thing as possible. So
yeah. I do not have a fear of heights. Like,
I've been on that
there's not even examples. Stratosphere. I mean, we're all afraid when we think we're gonna fall off something, but unless I'm put in a predicament of a situation, then no, I have no fear of heights. So, I'm gonna butcher this. Agoraphobia?
Agoraphobia?
I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
No, you can help me all you want.
Agoraphobia?
Which means she probably has this one. Agoraphobia. The fear of open or crowded spaces.
Nope.
Agoraphobia is also sort of hard because it's also like a term that specifically relates to people that are terrified to leave their homes.
Debilitating.
Like debilitating. Like they cannot leave their homes.
Right.
I don't have it. Thank goodness. I do have a very high level of social anxiety. I do get very nervous.
I think that's what I was thinking when I read this, but I have, it's a little more than that, isn't it?
Yeah, no. People with agoraphobia.
Okay, so we'll say
for like years.
Fear of crowds, fear of being in masses of people. Well,
I've been on the Strip in Vegas with over 500,000 people, so yeah, I can do crowds.
You guys have all been to concerts with me.
Yeah.
Terrified. I get very, very nervous very easily in crowds. It's a lot of conversations. I have ADHD. I'll pick up on everything that's happening around me, and it just creates this like sense of dread. So crowds are a little panic-inducing for me, but it doesn't stop me.
Just go right in there. Yeah. Mosh pits. Once everything starts to open up, it's less of a crowd, right?
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no crowd. I'm very bad at moving through crowds, though. I feel like I'm being rude. But other than that, no.
Sorry.
Move away, peasant.
Beg your pardon. 1,000 pardons.
You're like, so sorry I have to stand in front of you.
I don't want to...
Yeah, do you ever like go to a concert and then when you find your seat, the guy behind you goes, oh.
No, but that has popped in my head. I try to maneuver like... You can see over my shoulder, right? But it's a battle with myself because I want to be as close to the action as possible, but I also understand that I might be screwing a couple people over behind me.
Well, I can't say as a short person, we can always see over a shoulder or two, so
yeah.
You're not damaging anyone's experience. We're used to it.
I just want him next to me, so if anyone's running around in a mosh pit, they hit you first, not me.
There you go. Yep. Bounce right off me.
Bounce right off you.
So I do not have this fear. The 5 fears I just read are, give or take, most notably the 5 most common fears in the world. That's why I chose those 5. That was interesting. I chose those not knowing. I wanted the 5 most common fears to see if anyone at this table, outside of the paranormal, had any. And yeah, you guys did. I wasn't sure.
Those, yeah.
What's wrong with me? I didn't have any. I didn't check one single one of those.
Well, you're the freaky
We'll find
freak.
one.
Yeah, you're
We're
the
gonna
freaky
find
freak.
my fear. You know what's funny though? I wanted to find my fear. I actually had another segment that I wanted to do, and it didn't work. Last night, I took several online "What are you afraid of?" tests, and
failed them all.
They don't work because I give up because one of them told me I had a fear of tight spaces. No, I don't. But when I really give up, the next one I took told me I had a fear of public speaking and being in front of people.
That's your 9 to 5.
I know, that's literally what I do for a living. So I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
These don't work.
These don't work.
I canceled that. But I even took a picture of the fear of crowd one. I'm like, you've gotta be kidding.
What about...
Not only am I not afraid of it, I thrive on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Riley?
What about getting peanut butter stuck on the roof of your mouth?
We're gonna get to that.
I remember reading
That's
something
a
one
specific
time.
topic?
Yep. Is because what we're gonna do now, I have listed a random number of phobias that are specific enough and well known enough to be legitimate recorded phobias, but they are rare enough to have you actually have a chance you've never heard of them. And nobody here knows what they are.
Unless I ruined
I
one
listed
of them.
these. Yeah, Riley mentioned one, so maybe we could even begin with it. Because I have several here, but we're gonna basically name these very rare phobias that they have no idea what I've listed, and I simply want opinions on why that might be a phobia. Kind of brief little answers. But we'll start with. Oh, and I'm definitely gonna butcher the names of these ones for sure.
These get long, I'd imagine.
Yes.
Yeah, I won't be able to help with these ones either.
So maybe it'll even get a laugh at me trying, but as Riley pointed out, erycobutyrophobia. There's no way that
Spelling
was pronounced
right
right.
here.
The fear of peanut butter sticking to the roof of your mouth. Riley, you mentioned this. Is this a fear of yours?
No, it's not. I have not heard what you had to offer here, so that was very strange that I hit that
It
one on the
was.
head.
I thought maybe we tapped into something we should openly discuss as a group.
We're on the same wavelength here. No, I remember reading that at one point. I don't even remember when, and I knew it was so strange, and I was like, maybe I can, dig deep and see what Matt's afraid of. But no, I don't have it. I feel like...
Well, that's right. You were asking if I had that fear?
Yeah.
No, I love peanut butter.
Same.
I'll take a big old spoon of it. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I feel like it might be linked to people afraid of choking or something.
I was going to say
Yeah,
that.
probably.
Oh, I was
I
gonna
was gonna
say a
say that.
control thing.
Yeah, the
Control?
control.
Yeah, I don't like the feeling of getting peanut butter stuck to the roof of my mouth because it's very hard to get off.
Yeah.
And it's like a tick.
That's
Like
how
it
they
just
got
drives me crazy.
That's how they got Mr. Ed to talk, the horse.
Mm-hmm.
Now you know that. Or maybe I thought
knew
you're the only one
that.
that
I
knew
knew
that.
that.
You guys didn't know that?
Oh, I know.
Don't
I,
you know
I
Mr.
grew
Ed
up
is?
on
No.
Mr. Ed.
Who's
Oh,
Mr. Ed?
that was a
It's a
show in the
talking horse.
60s.
Hello, I'm Mr. Ed.
A horse is a horse, of course, and of course. Unless it's Mr. Ed.
This one is unfortunate, and I pity anyone that suffers from it. Ablutophobia, the fear of bathing. It's actually more common in adults than kids.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe not trusting the water?
Theorized
I
a
don't know.
fear of water or drowning, but it makes me wonder if someone has a fear of bathing, would they also go swimming?
It'd probably be the same.
The only thing I can think of is possibly a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
linked
That's the
to
only thing I
water.
can think of, yeah.
I follow a woman on TikTok who was basically abused by an ex-boyfriend, was basically waterboarded, and now she has a fear of bathing, and like she sort of documents like her struggle with it and like working
Okay.
through that.
Right,
so I know
right.
it's like a legitimate thing, and
Right.
for her it was linked to a past experience, which is sort of what I can think of.
The next one I mention is actually probably the newest recorded fear on the list. It's a nomophobia, fear of being without a phone. This
I
is
don't have
actually common enough that it's now being considered a legitimate phobia.
I can see that.
But I could see there's the panic of not having your phone on you, like you lost it. But I guess this could also relate to the fear of not being able to communicate or get a hold of someone you care about.
Yeah,
True.
we live in a largely digital world now.
Yeah.
Being without your phone is sort of like,
Your
you know,
connection to-
losing
Yeah,
a
I'm-
lot of your connections to things.
Right.
Now this one, there's no way I'm gonna say it right. Nobody can say this word right. And then what it's of is ironic.
Oh, I know what it is.
Yeah, that.
Fear of long words, huh?
Hippopotamostrosquibdalicopophobia.
I want to try my hand at saying that.
Fear of long words.
Hippopotamus. I heard hippopotamus.
Yeah, so did I. Apparently I said hippopotamus. Ironically, a fear of long words.
Hippopotomonstrosus quipedalophobia. Now you know.
Oh, that's rude.
Yeah.
I feel like that one could be linked to like a social anxiety.
You see it?
Could be.
Where I'm highlighting right here.
Oh my gosh.
Try.
Okay. Hippopotamonstrous equipedaliophobia.
Sounded pretty good to me, actually.
I'm gonna take it.
Let's,
Latin roots, man. Latin roots.
but
Hey, I can
did
sing
you
in
have it
Latin.
memorized?
Huh?
Is that off?
Yeah.
But do you have it memorized?
No.
No, yeah, I don't think anybody's gonna even.
I don't even think the person that named it has it memorized.
I think the person that
Right.
named it is a dick.
Oh man, they had it out for the people that had this phobia. I guess. Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah. Just because you fear it, I'm gonna.
Yeah, no, they're like, you know what? I'm gonna have people look this up in the dictionary and freak out when they see it. Like,
Yep.
It's hippophobia,
There you go. For sure.
for sure.
now, I would say that a common cause of this would potentially be. Oh, and by the way, we purposely didn't research these so that we could openly discuss it. But hey, Fear Frontier doctors, didn't you know? I would say that the fear of long words has something to do with insecurity.
Yeah.
A very bad English.
Being afraid of being judged or afraid of
Not being
messing up in front
intelligent.
of people.
Not looking
feeling
intelligent.
smart enough.
You know,
Yeah.
right? Not being smart enough because you know me. I don't talk big words, and as y'all see as you come watch us, I don't use big words very often. For one, my tongue just doesn't know how to say them, so I don't use them. Or I may be dumb
So
enough to where
secretly,
sometimes I don't know it.
you've got the hippo fear.
I'm not
You
afraid
don't
of the
like
words.
Fear of peanut butter.
Yeah, I have it all, man. I'm a
Riley has a fear of bathing.
So that's what that was.
Don't worry, it's not his fault. It extends back when he fell into the deep end of a swimming pool.
Yes,
And believe it or not, Matt does not like to talk. This is all sub. This
I have
is
a
not
fear
his
of
voice.
talking in front of crowds. That's the thing. It's all a ploy to get over my fear. I took a job public
There it
speaking.
is. You should have seen him.
It's recommended
10
by
years
his
ago.
therapist.
Now this one, I know for a fact you are gonna have something to say. Iasotrophobia. Whatever.
Okay.
Fear of mirrors.
Fear of mirrors. I don't have a fear of mirrors.
No, but we've talked about
Yes,
this.
we have.
You have theories on mirrors in general.
Right. I believe mirrors are portals to other dimensions, other realities, and stuff. So they can be very dangerous, and I can see why. I mean, just in the room that we're in right here, the mirrors that we have, people have experiences and stuff. So I say that's a doorway. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm
In here,
afraid
I
of
wouldn't
them.
be surprised.
Yeah, it's different. So, but yeah, I'm not afraid of them, but I can see where people would be.
Would you call it a superstition, or would you say, like, I guess would you call it a superstition?
No.
Like, I don't know how to counter that.
No, I believe it's reality in myself because just experiences that I've had and using mirrors to scurry or whatever. Some people may know what that is, but no, I don't. I've never been afraid of mirrors. I mean, I've spun around saying Bloody Mary and
That's probably why people are afraid of mirrors.
Candyman and stuff like that. It's like no one's ever popped up behind me yet.
I do love that horror movie trope where they go into the medicine cabinet and it's
Oh,
not
you-
a mirror,
you-
and then
you
they
know.
close it, and then there's something behind
Yeah,
it.
that's creepy.
Yeah,
It's
those
like,
are fun.
Yeah.
but I'm not afraid of the mirror
No.
for that. That was just showing me something that I may not see in reality. It's seeing something. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What
I
about
would
you?
also say there could be some sort of fear of your own image.
Yeah,
Could
something
be.
psychological.
People don't like what they see, yeah.
Sometimes
Don't like looking at
people
themselves.
have such extreme forms of body dysmorphia that when they look in the mirror,
Right.
they
Or they're
literally see
vampires and
something.
they can't use, mirrors.
Precisely.
Vampires
Like we don't
just
talk
can
about
see.
it.
Oh.
You know,
Sorry. Got that.
I mean, we already know she likes to sleep in coffins.
There you go. So,
Both of you guys do. It's weird.
Totally weird, man.
You guys should try it. You don't know what you're missing.
yeah, it's actually
One
really
bite
nice.
and it's
He don't
it's
fit in
there,
the
you know?
coffin.
I'd
Yes,
prefer
We
they're
would make him a
specially
special
made.
one.
It's true.
Yeah, it'd
it
be
has
like
to be
the
special.
coffin
Yeah, he
with
likes
his feet
closets.
hanging out there.
I like closets and between.
Yeah,
the
he likes to
mattresses.
hang upside down in closets. Hang the
In
feet on
between
the
bed,
hook
yeah,
rack, on the
yeah.
clothes rack, and just take a nap.
It's true. Yeah.
I can't say this. Is that an L? Plutophobia or plutophobia? Fear of money.
Like
I can honestly say I am not afraid of money.
I'm gonna say if I had to tie this to something, it would be a fear of responsibility.
Yeah,
Having
that's the
to
only.
decision make and having responsibility.
If you don't have the money, you don't have to do it.
Yeah. I don't have the money. I don't have to worry about that. That's kind of what I'm
makes
thinking.
sense. I think everybody has that at some point or
I mean, the
some
fear
degree.
of not having money, but I can't. I'm
No,
not
this is literally the
having
fear. I don't know if
money.
it's the fear of seeing it or having it, and I don't know.
Huh, that's
The fear of
interesting.
money.
Maybe
Yeah.
it could be germs too, because 2 million people may have touched that dollar and you don't want to. Could it be?
Could be. That's
Could
a
be
good one
germs.
too.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Because fear. I mean, because money is one of the
Dirtiest
most
things on-
and nobody
yeah.
washes money.
Oh, nobody.
So
well,
yeah.
I mean, some people launder it, but that's a whole different thing.
That's forgetfulness.
It's a whole different stuff.
Yeah,
like when
laundering money is,
Getting it sudsy clean.
Exactly.
So like
Yeah.
when you see a quarter from like 1955, there's a chance that that thing has never touched water since
Ever.
1955. There's a
Sure.
chance of that.
I just
fun fact, I
wanna-
wrote an essay, a speech about a penny from 1944. Very dirty penny.
You've told me a little bit about that.
I did.
Yeah.
Put it in vinegar or something and it'll clean it right up, right?
Vinegar and bleach? Vinegar and baking soda?
Something like
Wait,
that.
doesn't that make an explosion?
I have a penny tattooed on my
You gotta
ankle.
you gotta be careful with the copper pennies. It reacts with a lot of different chemicals.
You're very right.
And
yeah.
you be breathing in some woo.
This one, I am fascinated by. The morbid horror person in me thinks this one is, forgive me, but cool, interesting. Optophobia. The fear of opening your eyes. Imagine.
That's
Wow.
tragic.
I looked into this a little bit. Yeah, people are literally so afraid to open their eyes. They
had to have seen
won't,
something.
They won't go out.
Yeah.
They won't turn lights on.
They must
can't-
have.
you can't
That's a
watch
traumatic
anything.
experience that causes
Yeah.
something
You can't
like that.
drive.
It has to be.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, you can't see. I mean, it's like a blind person. You would have to literally live your life blind.
It makes me wonder what they think they're gonna see.
Or what did they see that they don't
what
want
did
to
they
see
see?
again?
it sounds like a concept of like an Edgar Allan Poe
Mm-hmm.
story or something like that.
Mixed with Stephen King. Or,
Yeah.
something traumatic had to have.
For sure.
Interesting. I couldn't think of not being able to, or wanting to open my eyes to see.
Yeah, that one. Out of everything we've read, that could be the most tragic one
Yeah.
that we've gone over.
Yeah, not being able to see my kids or something like that. Yeah, I can see that would suck. I would not like that one out of all the ones that you just said.
Yeah, I agree.
This is vestiphobia, fear of clothing. Interesting.
I feel like that definitely could be anxiety related.
Feeling suffocated.
Feeling suffocated.
Suffocating.
feeling
You know, my
closed
mom,
in.
she doesn't like the ones around her neck. She can't
Yep.
have shirts around her neck.
Yep.
She has to have it open. So
Yeah.
so she probably has a bit of that.
Yeah.
Tight clothing and type stuff. So
It's interesting too because while I haven't researched into these very deeply, I actually, while writing this, saw a sentence that caught my eye. I hadn't really researched beyond this, but it said a common example of this. Some soldiers have developed a fear of military clothing.
I
so
can
it could
see
be
that.
Yeah.
traumatic experiences.
PTSD type stuff.
relate-
Yeah. Yeah, they see a military, puts them right back into the spot at a
Yeah,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Vest or something.
Yep.
Yeah, you close your eyes.
I can see that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That would be sad too. And then the last one I have listed here, which I like the paradox of phobophobia, fear of phobias. What's fascinating to me about the fear of phobias is you have a phobia as you are afraid to have a phobia. It is
Yeah.
a weird clockwork paradox.
You know, I do
think
I
bet we're both about to say the same thing.
you go.
It kind of is like having anxiety.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like having anxiety, and what specifically it reminds me of is forgive me, I cannot remember the word for it. It's when hypochondria.
Okay.
It's when you constantly think something is wrong with you. Sort of the same thing where like you physically feel something is always wrong with you, but
Right.
with mental
Right.
mental health, you constantly are thinking, oh, what's going wrong? What I'm scared of
Right.
being scared, which is also a really, really sad way to live.
Yeah, it would
like,
be.
where you aren't, you're always scared of what you're going to be scared of next, which
Yeah,
is really, tragic.
Yeah, I mean, you're literally just scared of life. You're scared of being existing.
Right.
And at that point, I think that would be freaky.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like fun.
No.
I don't know if I'm oversimplifying this, but I would want to say that people that come on ghost tours might have a little bit of this. Like, they haven't experienced what it's like to see something, to hear something, to get touched by something that's unseen.
Or be in complete darkness. Or
Exactly. Maybe they don't know what that's like, but presented with it, they're afraid that they will be afraid of something like that
Right.
happening. And
maybe it's a social thing too. Maybe you're with a group of people and you're afraid, like we're going on a tour, the four of us. I'm afraid to show that I might be afraid because I'm embarrassed.
yeah,
You know, I'm embarrassed to show that I'm
We've had
afraid.
that. We've had people get
Yeah.
frightened on the ghost tours
and
be
embarrassed about
by
it. Yeah. And you have to notice that, and you just kind of
We try
You know,
to not. We try
right,
to make them feel comfortable. We don't want
Right.
anyone embarrassed. But,
no.
Yeah, some people, they realize that they seemed vulnerable or something in that moment. I'm like, hey, it's a scary thing. Like, the ghost tours are fun, but they can be scary.
It can be, more than you can handle. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're not used to that and you're like, wait a minute, there's nothing there and something's happening, it could blow somebody's fuse.
Exactly.
Yep.
So these were some of the rarest phobias that are like interwoven enough into reality that they are realistic. People do suffer from these fears. But next, I want to get into things that could be real, but also potentially be fictitious, give or take, because what we're about to do now, because it's no secret by now that I love film. I think we all do. And in this next portion, we are going to bring fears and phobias that are in films to the forefront here, as prior to the recording of this episode, I asked everybody to choose a movie or a movie scene from any genre that either depicts a fear that they have or that they find fascinating. And we're about to discuss it because at this moment, everyone has selected their movie or scene, but none of us know what each other's selection is. So we're gonna get into it. They're gonna say why, and we're gonna kind of discuss our opinion of it. And yeah. So with that being said, since I came up with this, should I go first or does somebody else want to start?
Go for it.
Go
Set
for
the
it,
stage.
bro.
Okay, so this is not a fear I have. This is a fear that I would very much like to not have. I think it would be horrible to have, as I am a pretty caring and affectionate person who likes physical touch. So one of the fears that I've seen in a film, and it was hard to narrow it down, but for me personally, the fear of of intimacy, or to where you're just down repulsed by it. And I've chosen a 1965 film by Roman Polanski called Repulsion.
Repulsion. Repulsion, a frightening film.
Repulsion is a psychological drama horror film about a woman who is so turned off by men and touch and somebody having an attraction to them, they are downright repulsed by it, to the point that it causes them to act out violently. And this woman who suffers from this, she is left home alone one weekend because her sister, who is very much the opposite of her, goes on a holiday weekend with her boyfriend to pretty much go have a very physical weekend, and it's very apparent that's what they're doing. She leaves her sister very selfishly, who does not need to be alone, is left alone at a time in their apartment when there's bills coming, everything, there's responsibility. They didn't really think much for groceries and things like that, so she's left alone to fend on her own, and there is a man that sees her every day when she walks home from work, and he wishes to pursue her. He's attracted to her. She also suffers from being attractive with this problem, and this causes her to freak out and have one really scary weekend where she is hallucinating, people breaking in, the walls moving, the apartment's morphing. She's terrified and confused and doesn't know what's real or not. And it all extends because she has this fear of something that is so common, the opposite being so common that we don't even think about it. You don't think about the fear of not wanting to love or be loved. And for me, that would be agonizing, just like a living hell. But it's also one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. Repulsion, 1965.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, that sounds.
Anybody seen it? Yeah.
Fear Frontier movie night.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really.
and not to self-advertise necessarily, but on the same YouTube channel as this, one of the first things I ever put out there was a Halloween special called The 31 Nights of Horror. Night, I want to say 18 is Repulsion. Check it out. You can check it out right now if you haven't seen it.
Or wait until you're done watching this.
Wait till you're done watching this and then watch Nights of Horror, episode 18. We talked about Repulsion.
That's right.
Yeah, so that was mine. Who's next?
You're gonna be You're gonna trip at the show, or the movie, should I say? Jeepers Creepers. Okay.
Very
yeah.
good.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
The two scenes, because it has to be the two scenes. He's going down the chute and gets into that underground thing with the church, and they've got these people sewn together and stuff. Or the very, very end where he's tied up, separated from his skin. I don't want anything to do with something like that. The thought of being in a situation I have no control and I am 100% being tortured, in pain, and there is no hope. I am going to be like this until they say I can die. No. Nope, that's it. That's a situation that I wouldn't care for.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that for sure. In fact, a question that I had written down and totally bypassed was the common, it was a little too on the nose, just simply, what are you afraid of? And that ties into it because outside of all this talk we've had of fears and the supernatural, the only thing that really makes me think like, oh, I do not want to go to sleep tonight is the thought of if the next day I had to go in for surgery. Like a real...
Well, see, I've been in
chest-opening
surgery. Yeah, I've had a kidney transplant. So I've been in surgery. I've died 5 times, all of this good stuff. So it's the torture. But I can see people... Surgery's freaky. I mean, because it's
You're
so
completely
sterile and just...
being out of control.
Yeah, you have no control whatsoever. It's, oh, that's sweet. And you don't know if you're going to wake up.
I almost think I'd rather be awake. I'm not
you've
kidding.
told about that. Watch
it's
your
the
own
being
surgery.
under. Yeah, it just...
I don't know. I don't think I could watch them do a kidney transplant.
It's not that I
kidney.
would watch. It's just I don't like being under when a stranger who might have gotten bad news that morning is putting metal sharp
Right,
objects
and
in,
happens to sneeze. Maybe they got a
Yeah,
cold.
it's and also mad respect to surgeons. The what they can do and like without
right.
mad respect.
I don't know if you've heard the cliche, but it happened to me when I had surgery. Is the doctor says, "Okay, now count backwards from 10," and you remember saying 10, 9.
See, that bothers me too. That just there's something about.
See,
the
that don't
whole
bother me.
thing.
As long as I'm like, hey, you can do whatever the heck you want, as long as I don't remember it.
Yeah.
Okay, just
And I'm
don't
over here
snap
like,
and I
wait,
start
wait,
clucking
what
like
happened?
a chicken. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
upset.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't want nobody snapping or saying a word and I cluck like a chicken. I was like, no.
That's great.
I'd rather be hypnotized. I'm not.
I don't know if I've ever been.
I don't know. I tried to hypnotize myself once. It was a weird night. But anyway,
Enough on that story. We'll save that for later.
maybe on a different podcast.
Man, to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah, I know.
Next.
Which one of you want to go next?
Rock, paper, I can go.
Okay.
I kind of took a twist on this one, and it's like it's the fear and then the lack of fear. And from pondering this question, it kind of made me realize why I like this film so much. It's top 5 of my favorite movies of all time. believe it came out in 2013 called Fury with Brad Pitt, Shia LaBeouf.
Yes.
One of the it's
I
harrowing.
remember the movie.
Oh gosh, yeah.
What's the movie about again?
It's set in World War II.
It's a war movie.
Yeah, set in World War II, and it's about this group of men that are in a tank. And they have basically become brothers, living in this tank and going out on these missions and everything. And things happen in the film that they are numb to because they've just had to deal with it for so long. And spoiler, non-spoiler, one of their people in the tank end up dying, getting killed. And they recruit somebody new who's just, he was
green as heck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was just, on a typewriter the week before that, and now he's in a tank, and he's terrified, and he has no idea what to expect. Mm-hmm. So seeing this person going through it and like throwing up, he's so scared, and then these other men that have gone through it and are completely numb to it, just that dichotomy is terrifying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You add into the fact that this happened. It actually happened,
Yeah, that
It
disassociation.
is happening. All
That
sorts of different things,
from like what you're living. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense.
Exactly, and the acting is so great. If you haven't seen Fury, I believe it's on Netflix now. So fantastic film. After you.
Oh, it's my turn.
It's totally your turn.
I think this movie came out last year or the year before. It's a horror movie called Smile.
I haven't seen that one yet. I want to see that one.
I'm curious where this is going.
So in the movie, this woman is a psychiatrist, usually dealing with like emergency situations. And basically she ends up getting a entity, curse, whatever, attached to her. And this curse basically drives people to commit suicide. And then throughout the movie, she starts having like these hallucinations. And I actually looked it up because I was curious what the actual name of the phobia is. It's called dementophobia, and it's the fear of going insane. And it's something that I personally can relate to. I've struggled with my mental health since I was very, very young. But from the age of probably 16 to 19, I was like in the worst place that I've ever been. To the point where I was actually like struggling with having like hallucinations. And honestly, the hallucinations were less scary than the thought that I was losing my mind. And so from that end, I think that is absolutely one of the worst things that someone can go through. Being like, I am actually going insane.
Right.
And like every day wondering, when is it going to be the final snap? Like what's actually real and what's not. And so that is one fear. That entire movie, I sat there enthralled.
Hey, Carl. How you feeling today?
Because
I'm gonna
it
have to
felt like
watch
such
it.
a
The only
real
thing I
experience.
remember is the previews on TV of the.
It's way better.
It is way.
and I don't
the
remember
previews did
about
not
it,
do
so
that movie justice.
I'm looking forward to seeing
The
it.
And I
previews
have-
tried to sell
Make
it
it
to a
look
different
dumb.
Yeah, and I am
audience,
not
yeah.
a huge fan of like most modern horror movies.
Right.
There are select instances, but that one absolutely blew me
It
away.
feels
Check that
like
out.
a one
I
of
want to.
remember like the way horror films felt in the early 2000s when The Ring and stuff came
Yeah.
out. It taps into that, but I mean that in a positive way. It's like a throwback to the 2000s, and it doesn't suck.
The ending's a little weak, but the
This
movie
is true.
itself
The third act is the worst, but I went into Smile thinking I
That it
was
was
just
gonna
gonna,
be
I
like
was
a
just, I was just gonna,
horror
yeah, I was
comedy
just gonna
or
waste some time, popcorn flick. Every once in a while, you got to do that. And no, I was thoroughly surprised by how much I enjoyed it, how intriguing it was, and how much it just felt like a good rainy day horror film in a good way.
I was in tears by the end.
Yeah.
I was in tears
Wow.
just because it was so.
I'm gonna have to check that.
It was
one
like
out 'cause I
watching
wanted
something
to.
I related to on screen.
Right.
I think another fear you can pull from that is the fear of knowing this is real and trying to convince other people that
Oh yeah, that's the other aspect.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not going insane.
I'm not going insane.
And no one's
reality.
listening to you.
Nobody's
One of the
listening.
worst nightmares I've ever had was that exact thing.
Yeah.
I was like, this is real. This is happening, and no one
everybody
was
else
listening
doesn't.
to me.
Yeah, that I can see. I wouldn't. I can see you can be afraid of that.
Yeah.
Maybe seeing something that I know for a fact I can touch and I know it's real, but not being able to convince anybody else that it's real. I can see that being messed up.
Yeah, and that's something that's used in, I would want to say, several horror movies, and if done well, it can induce that
terror.
exactly. So that's a good one.
Wow, that's a good one.
Good job.
That was awesome.
So, hopefully today you all learned a little something about us and yourselves when it comes to the wonderful, fascinating, and sometimes oddly deep and complex subject of fear. One of Fear Frontier's absolute favorite things to talk about, naturally. So we hope you enjoyed our episode tonight. And if you want to spend more time with us, you can. Check out other videos of ours on YouTube, as well as Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And if you want to come see us in person, you may. We have a ghost tour, in case you haven't figured that out already. And to find tickets for the ghost tour, check our calendar, www.fearfrontier.net.
You said it. It was the
I
last
did. But seriously, folks. No, yes, or you can just check the link below. I'll try to remember to put a link below to the ghost tour. And also don't forget, please like, subscribe, toll the bell. It helps us out very much, and we want to see you just as much as we hope you want to see us. Now, is there anything else anybody wants to say before we depart and bid you all good night?
Good night, brothers and sisters.
Good night. Thank you so much.
All-new paranormal tour where guides say they've seen grown men literally run for their lives. Have you ever had anyone say, "Oh, I felt something on my shoulder"?
Almost every time.
Seriously?
Tap, tap, tap.
Mikey, yeah, that was a spirit that we normally don't mess with.
And it seemed like it just flew out of my fur. Sorry, I'm freaked out.
I'm excited. If you're brave enough to venture with us on one of these ghost tours, come on out and see what you're made of.
And what an ominous warning. He says, hey, things change at night, but also this is not a boot tour, so if something happens, it wasn't planned.
Exactly. Okay.